Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me again return to the question that I asked when we were on the Senate floor. Why are we here? And I know y'all have answered this in different forms and different platforms. We're here because the governor put this on the call. Well, usually when things are put on the call for special session, it's something left over from the regular session. Maybe a bill that needed to be tweaked, maybe just something that needed to be amended on a bill. But we didn't have anything to do with redistricting in the regular session. Nobody said a word about the congressional maps, the congressional lines. Why are we undertaking the highly unusual process of redistricting 5 years early without a court order, without a law that was passed in the regular session, or new census data that requires us to do so? The current congressional map was drawn in 2021, following the 2020 census. That's the way it goes. The census is done, and then we do redistricting. The census gave Texas not one, but 2 new congressional districts due to explosive population growth. 95% came from minority communities of color, with the majority of that 95% being Latino. So we contributed to that growth. But that growth did not translate into increased representation. Instead, the number of Latino majority districts, it was reduced from 8 to 7. So just to be clear again, we were responsible for the growth, but then our representation was reduced. While white Texans, just 40% of the population growth, control 74% of Texas's districts. That's 28 out of 38. This map is already being challenged in court for diluting minority voting power, and now based solely on a letter from the DOJ, which is riddled with errors, and that is putting it lightly. The governor has called a special session to make that map even worse. The DOJ letter makes claims that certain majority-minority districts were drawn based on impermissible racial reasons and must be dismantled. But since 2021, state leaders have insisted they did not consider race when they drew the map. We heard this on the floor time and time again, over and over. In fact, if you combine the number of times that it was said that the maps were legal, they were constitutional, and that they were race blind, 34 times. And y'all voted for these maps. Nobody had concerns about those maps, and nobody has said anything since then. And Adam Kincaid, and I talked a little bit about him on the floor the other day. He is the Virginia non-Texan, Virginia resident who drew the current map. He testified in court last month, as recent as last month, that the maps were drawn race blind. So I can't help but ask the question, did he commit perjury? The DOJ letter makes claims that certain majority-minority districts must be dismantled based on a complete misstatement of the Petaway case. And I'm glad that Senator Hinojosa referenced that. It's unclear whether this is an intentional misstatement to provide a pretext. Regardless, the DOJ falsely concludes those districts are unconstitutionally drawn. In addition, the DOJ letter includes Congressional District 29, something I happen to know a lot about, a district I am very familiar with because I was a very young college student advocating for this district to be a Latino Opportunity District. I also worked in Congress as a staffer for this congressional district. It has always been a Latino Opportunity District or Latino Majority District since it was created in 1991. It has never been a majority minority district. And now the DOJ itself is demanding that race be used to dismantle districts precisely based on their racial composition. This is an intentional racial discrimination, pure and simple. The Supreme Court has said dismantling districts based on race, especially when they elect minority preferred candidates, violates the Constitution. I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to be involved in anything that is unconstitutional. We're being asked to reverse engineer the racial composition of legally drawn congressional districts 9, 18, 29, and 33. And target them for elimination. This is not compliance with the Voting Rights Act. In fact, it's a clear violation of it. Let's not kid ourselves here. This is not just about partisanship. It's about undermining the minority voting strength yet again. This legislature must not be complicit in this unconstitutional and racially discriminatory scheme. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.